All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. So, no Patrick Mahomes, no Lamar Jackson, and no Joe Burrow in these NFL playoffs, as this was supposed to be the year for Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills to finally break through and get to that elusive Super Bowl. But if Buffalo was going to get to the Super Bowl this year, they were going to have to do it on the road as a wild card team since the New England Patriots won the the AFC East. Now, we saw the Bills go on the road and gut it out last week against the young and upcoming Jacksonville Jaguars. And then Buffalo took their show on the road today to face the Denver Broncos in the divisional round. And of course, the Broncos came in as the top team in the AFC. And we just saw the Bills lose another playoff heartbreaker. And now a long flight back east from the Rocky Mountains is going to be that much longer as Buffalo is going to sit back and look at the opportunities that they let slip through their grasp in this game. James Cook's first half fumble that gave Denver the football back deep in their own territory. This erased an opportunity for the Bills to possibly go up 14-3. The Josh Allen fumble just before the end of the first half. Buffalo was already down 17-10. They were trying to like salvage something, and then that fumble opened the door for Denver to get another field goal just before the end of the half to make it 20-10. And then, of course, another fumble by Josh Allen early on in the third quarter, which gave Denver an opportunity to pad their lead at 23 to 10. But even with all of that, we saw the Bills turn the football over 5 times today, and they still had a chance to win in spite of all of that. And at the end of the day, it was more heartache for a Bills team that has seen so much of it in recent years. You think about the postseason struggles for Buffalo, uh, 4 losses, 4 heartbreaking losses to the Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, and you could take your pick as to which one was more devastating. And then you got to look at this game right here that they lost to Denver. I mean, to Denver today. This one is going to sting for quite some time, especially now that we know the news that came out after this game with Bo Nix, the starting quarterback for the Broncos, being lost for the rest of these playoffs to that ankle injury. TFX, what's going on, my man? Happy Saturday to you. Happy hunting as always. You said Allen couldn't make up for those fumbles. It's one of those where, in the postseason, the opportunities, you really got to go out there and seize the moment. And it's not just the fumbles. The fumbles themselves were bad. The turnovers altogether were bad. You look at the bulk of these turnovers today by Buffalo, all were in Denver territory. Those are points that you're taking off of the board for your team. And, the James Cook fumble, it looked like they were going to go in and score a touchdown. Those 2 interceptions, that's deep in Denver's territory. That's an opportunity. You're only going to get X amount of opportunities in the postseason. You got to go out there and cash in. They didn't do that today. It's one of those for me, the close misses by Josh Allen. And I think back late in the fourth quarter, they were up 24-23. Buffalo was. They had an opportunity to get it to 31-23. He just missed a touchdown throw. They had to settle for a field goal. They're down 30-27 late. Okay. They're driving. He just misses a tight end for a touchdown throw that would have possibly won the game. They had to settle for a field goal right there. These are the plays that you've got to go out there and make in those situations if you're Buffalo. It's one of you're saying he missed that throw at the end. That was uncatchable. Well, I'll tell you like this. It's one of those. It was like they were just right there. The one with the tight end was right there. I feel like he just needed to take a little something off of it. Those 2 interceptions. It's one of those where put a little air, under the football on the first one. They're going to call it an interception in the second half, and I'll tell you like this: this is a play that is going to be talked about for a very long time, as far as whether or not that was an interception by Jaquan McMillan or it was a catch by Brandon Cooks. It's one of those where at first I thought he caught it, and then watching it live, and then I'm like, okay, I sit back and see it, and I'm like, why is the DB coming up with the football? And usually on those plays, the officials give the benefit of the doubt to the receiver. And initially, it looked like, to my from my vantage point, Brandon Cooks had that football. So that's going to be a play that is going to be talked about for quite some time. Brian's horror movies for life. Excuse me, 5 turnovers. Yeah, listen, that's going to sting. Usually, when a team has 5 turnovers, you're like, okay, this team lost by 20 points or something like that. This went to overtime, and this went deep into overtime. And Buffalo, still had opportunities to make the plays. What I didn't like, okay, for the most part of like what 50 minutes of this game, the officials were letting the guys play, and usually that's what we see in postseason action. They let them play, and then all of a sudden, late, the officials decided to have a tight whistle, and you could make a case on those 2 calls that were pass interference against Buffalo in overtime. You could also make a case that they weren't pass interference as well. But I'll tell you like this: the referees were allowing them to play a physical brand of football up until then. And usually, what you allow the players to do, they're going to do. So you allowed them to play physical all throughout the game. And now all of a sudden, you want to get a tight whistle. For me, it's almost like, you know what? We just want to make sure that this game ends so everybody can turn over and watch the San Francisco Seattle game in peace. The bottom line is, if you're going to call it one way for the entire game, you got to keep it like that. And it was one of those where um, there was I think there was a play with Brandon Cooks earlier in the game when PI could have been called on the Denver defensive back, and it wasn't. And again, it goes back to, like I said, if you're going to allow or you're going to call the game one way, you have to call the game that way through its entirety. You can't just sit back and be like, hey, you know what? Okay, now we're going to sit up there and call pass interference. And those are key games because those calls really had an effect on the outcome of this contest today. And typically, it's one of those where, you know what, it's the postseason. You sit back and you let the players decide, unless it's something completely egregious. So again, there's going to be a lot of questions about this game in the coming days, but nonetheless, you're going to look at it, and if you're Buffalo, you're going to sit back and say, how in the hell do we lose this game? Of course, we know why Buffalo lost the game for the most part. It was the turnovers. But the Bills are going to sit back and look and say, hey, we held the football for 11 more minutes than Denver did. Buffalo had the football, including overtime, for more than 40 minutes in this game. They outgained Denver today by 100 yards, and they still went out there and lost. And it's one of those where, and I'm gonna touch on this in a moment. It's one of those where this team consistently finds ways to lose these games. It's not a Patrick Mahomes situation as far as, well, Mahomes just pulls it out. That's what's holding the Bills back. It's the Buffalo Bills, and they find ways to lose these games. And at this point, you have to wonder if this is going to cost Sean McDermott his job with the Buffalo Bills. You think about it, McDermott has only missed the playoffs one time as the head coach of the Bills. He's 98-50 in the regular season. He's 8-8 in the postseason. And you got to wonder if this Bills team has gone as far as they can with Sean McDermott as their head coach. And the reason why I say it is it's the same old song for them in the playoffs. Is simply, you know what? They simply find ways to lose games. Yes, the questionable penalties this evening, were a factor. Okay, but again, turning the football over, not seizing the moment, you can't fire the players. So you got to wonder if this is going to be it for Sean McDermott. And the reason why I say it, because I think Sean McDermott is a good coach, but I say it from the standpoint of how far are they going to get with Sean McDermott? And I think getting to the postseason, getting on the cusp, this is possibly as far as the Bills are going to get with Sean McDermott. And yeah, to your question, TFX, I just heard it and I couldn't believe it about Bo Nix because it's one of those where if you're Denver, this has to take the air out of your sails because this kid just won his first playoff game. This team just won their first playoff game since Super Bowl 50. And it's one of those where the Broncos feel like, you know what, we have a team to get back to the Super Bowl. Of course, their last Super Bowl championship came 10 years ago. And it's in the same stadium, same city and same stadium where when they won their last Super Bowl in Santa Clara. So now you have a scenario where how do the Broncos rally from all of this without Bo Nix at quarterback? That's going to be very, very interesting. And I'll tell you like this: it's either going to be Denver, or pardon me, Houston or New England is coming to town next Sunday to face the Broncos. So you got to throw a quarterback out there who definitely has not played a lot against two of the better defenses in football. Good luck. That's all I'm gonna say right there. Uh, but with these Bills, Josh Allen played good, but he was not good enough as he turned the football over today. And I can't harp on this enough. His turnovers took points off of the board for his team. You look at it today, Josh Allen, 25 of 39 passing for 283. He was sacked 3 times. He threw 3 touchdown passes, but those 2 fumbles and those 2 interceptions really, and I mean really, hurt this team today. It's one of those you have to question, will we ever see this Bills team get over the hump? I'll tell you like this. Josh Allen to me, and they had Stephon Diggs before, and they still didn't win. But I know that they had injuries in their receiving core. Josh Allen needs him at number one because it's one of those he needs that get up there and go up there and make that playmaker type guy at wide receiver. That's first and foremost. For me, like there's just something missing from this team where they always on both sides of the football are just unable to make those key plays in crunch time. And you ask yourself, why do we continuously see the Bills come up short in these situations? They just find ways to lose. And it's one of those for me, people, when they think about the Bills, unfortunately, they're always going to talk about the 4 Super Bowl losses that they had in the 90s. And I'll tell anybody to get to 4 straight Super Bowls, win or lose, is an accomplishment. But you go back and watch those Bills games when they got there after the first loss, it was always okay. When is the other shoe going to drop, and when are things are going to start going against us? And it's not the same mentality right now, but it's a mentality nonetheless. Where what, how are we going to lose this game, as opposed to how we're going to win this game? And it always seems to work out like that for these Buffalo Bills. I will say this: I always feel that this, indoctrination of the Bills, I feel like their best chance to win was back in 2021. And that's when they blew the lead with 13 seconds left against the Kansas City Chiefs in the divisional round. And of course, the rest was history. I truly do feel that was the Bills' best chance. They're going to go back and look at last year's AFC Championship game loss to Kansas City as another example. But again, they always find a way, unfortunately for them, to come up short in these situations. First things first, as far as where the Bills go from here, I think one of the big questions is going to be whether or not they decide to move on from Sean McDermott. That's going to be the big thing. There are some people who feel that the Bills should. I'm not sure where the ownership and the front office are going to go from there. Like I said, I truly do feel, in my opinion, Sean McDermott is a quality head coach in the NFL, but you still have to ask yourself at some point, how far are you going to go with this guy leading your team? And honestly, I think that the Bills have gotten as far as they are going to go with Sean McDermott as their head coach. The bottom line is this: you look at this team, and I know, Josh Allen wears his emotions on his sleeve. Josh Allen leaves it all out there. You can never go out there and accuse Josh Allen of not giving it all, especially in these situations. But I'm going to say this: Josh Allen is going to continue to hear about what he cannot get done in January until he's going to be able to do it. And that's a given. You think about the nature of the sport, you think about the nature of the position. And at the end of the day, quarterbacks, like I always say, fairly or unfairly, are judged by their win loss record, and they're also judged by what they can and cannot do in January. And unfortunately for Josh Allen, he and his team continuously come up short in these situations. But I'll tell you like this: regardless of who's going to be the head coach of the Bills next year, they need to change their strategy. And their strategy of, you know what, the will of Josh Allen is going to be enough to get it done for us. It's not. It hasn't happened, and it ain't going to happen. Okay, we've even seen with the Kansas City Chiefs, where, you know what, they relied on Patrick Mahomes so much. Going forward, they're going to have to change that as well. Josh Allen is good, but he alone is not going to get this team over the hump in January. Other guys are going to have to step up. Josh Allen's going to have to make better plays. You put it like this: the Bills had 5 turnovers today. If we're talking about Buffalo having 2 turnovers, they win this game. And not only do they win this game, they win this game in regulation. Okay. So again, 5 turnovers, 4 of those coming from your quarterback. You're not going to win a lot of games in the National Football League like that. You can get away with it against a team maybe like the Raiders. Okay. But you're not going to sit up there in a postseason format, in a postseason game on the road against a team like a Denver and say, you know what, we're going to turn the football over 5 times. And even still, like I said before, Buffalo still had an opportunity to win this game in overtime. So the Bills, they're going to look back at their missed opportunities. Were there some questionable calls and non-calls by the officials? Absolutely. But like the old saying goes, you don't want to leave it up to the guys in the striped shirts, to decide the game for you. You want to go out there and make it happen. Buffalo had their opportunities and they came up short. And of course, there's a fine line between winning and losing in the playoffs, and there's a fine line between taking care of the football and not taking care of the football. And of course, we saw Buffalo not take care of the football today. Big reason why they lost. And now they're back to the drawing board. They're scratching their heads, and they could simply just ask themselves, what went wrong once again for us in the playoffs? But folks, that's going to wrap it up on this edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank each and every one of you for checking it out. And if you like what you heard and saw, you know what to do. Just hit that like button as well as subscribing to this channel. And like I always say, it's greatly appreciated. Ryan's Horror Movies for Life. Definitely appreciate you chiming in. Definitely appreciate the commentary. If you're not subscribed to this channel, I would definitely appreciate it if you would definitely do that. And also, please don't be a stranger to this podcast. TFX, as always, my man, much love. I missed you the other night when I was talking about the New York Giants hiring John Harbaugh to be their new head coach. Definitely wanted to hear your thoughts, and it's going to be definitely interesting to see where they go in that direction for going forward with a Harbaugh leading things. But nonetheless, definitely continue to check out this channel throughout the postseason. Looks like the Seahawks are going to be hosting the NFC Championship game next Sunday, and let's see who's going to join them, and let's see who's going to make that trip to Denver tomorrow, whether it's going to be New England or Houston. I got plenty to talk about those games as well, as long with checking out this channel tomorrow. As I got to talk about my preview for the upcoming national championship game between Indiana and Miami on Monday night, excuse me. Also, if you're on the X formerly known as Twitter. You can check me out anytime at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you give me that follow, it'll be my pleasure to do the same in return. And that also goes for Instagram, where you can check me out at 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge. Also, if you're on Facebook, definitely check out the Sports Depot 365. And as far as I'm concerned, one of the better sports groups going on social media. But until next time, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I'm signing off, and I'm saying thanks once again for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Be well, everybody.